But he did.
And it's not accurate.
Hang on, Stephen.
It's not accurate.
Stephen, he did deliberately lie for a sustained period of time, for years, about these families. He knew Sandy
Tell me how he
Hook.
deliberately lied.
He knew that.
Tell me how he deliberately
lied. And he was found to have deliberately lied.
Tell me how he deliberately lied.
And by the way, in his defense, he
Tell me how he deliberately lied, please.
In his defense, he tried to play the First Amendment card, and it was rejected by the judge. Rejected.
Tell me how he deliberately lied, please.
All right, folks, so we have pretty extensively covered the Piers Morgan, Alex Jones hypocrisy, you know, where Piers will claim on one hand that he has a show called Uncensored, and every 3 seconds he'll talk about how he's a strong supporter of free speech. But then on the flip side, when Alex Jones was reinstated on Twitter, he immediately threw a hissy fit claiming, well, I do not support that free speech. He claimed he went too far and basically made the argument that because Alex is a dangerous conspiracy theorist, that he doesn't deserve the right to free speech, which is, of course, massively contradictory of the very concept of free speech. And we personally broke down all of Piers's reasons why he didn't think Alex deserved free speech and, you know, explained why it doesn't make any sense. Long story short, he says because of the Sandy Hook defamation case, that means he should lose his entire First Amendment, because apparently that's how it works. Newsflash, that's not how it works. But anyways, at the time that happened, I long thought to myself, it would be so satisfying to see an articulate conservative go on Piers Morgan's show and debunk him and explain why Piers does not understand the concept of free speech, especially not in America, and shame him for his hypocrisy. And this week, we are in luck, folks, because Steven Crowder appeared on the Piers Morgan Uncensored quote-unquote show and absolutely did that. It is satisfying to watch. I thought in many ways Steven very gracefully dismantled this ridiculous argument about, I believe in free speech, but not for Alex Jones. And we are going to react to that here today. But first, let's talk about your financial security. And I got to tell you about our friends and sponsors today over at Noble Gold Investments. Folks, with all that's going on in the economy, it has never been a better time to invest in safe, stable assets like gold, silver, and precious metals. These are useful hedges against inflation. They are certainly a great way to divest from the arguably fake monetary system we have at the moment, and our friends at Noble Gold Investments can help you do that. Noble Gold has worked hard to help customers like you secure their financial security for many years now. They have worked to ensure an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau, and they are great friends of this channel. So if you are especially brand new to investing in this world, be sure to go check them out at thevincedao.com. Again, that is thevincedao.com. Support our friends at Noble Gold. Invest in your financial future at thevincedao.com. All right, with that said, folks, let's just get into this. Here we go. Here is Piers Morgan going back and forth with Steven Crowder over the Alex Jones question. Here you go.
I believe the word I used there was fraud.
You earlier used hypocrite.
Did I earlier? Okay, I don't remember saying it, but I'll take your word for it. And to some degree, I believe it. Look, I think that in hosting a show Uncensored, and I can't see you, but I know you put up the very festive holly leaf on the globe there. It is incumbent upon you. You will say, I believe in the concept of free speech. Now, I'll be very clear in my definition of free speech. It's the constitutional definition of freedom of speech. All speech is permissible outside of a crime, and we have very clear parameters, and these have been affirmed by the Supreme Court, as to what that is. That's a proactive call for violence. The crime is not the speech. The crime is the action causing violence on purpose. Outside of that, everything is permissible. But for a show Uncensored, and I know...
Which, just to be clear, Alex Jones has not done that. Okay, and I know you're going to bring up the Sandy Hook case. Obviously, that's Piers Morgan's big argument. We'll talk about it in a second, but Steven is right about this.
You said there's a difference between across the pond there, and obviously in the United States, we have a First Amendment that you don't. How would you define freedom of speech?
Well, I don't think we're as far apart as you think. I mean, you talk about the First Amendment not protecting, for example, crime.
I think you are, though.
It's a little bit more complicated. For example, it doesn't protect you if you deliberately defame somebody. And my argument about Alex Jones in particular was that he's just been punished with over $1 billion fine in one of the biggest defamation cases in modern American history for deliberately telling lies about the families of the poor victims of the Sandy Hook massacre over a sustained period of time, which led to them getting direct harassment and other criminal activity. So I was joining all the dots there of his particular situation, and I concurred with Elon Musk's original view when he was asked about it when he first bought Twitter last year, which was he was not going to allow him back on. He's now.
See, this proves the point, actually, that Piers doesn't understand how free speech works, at least in the United States. Because it is true that Alex Jones lost a defamation case. You know, I have my thoughts on that, but it actually doesn't matter. Because the First Amendment never says if you lose a defamation case, you lose your entire right to free speech. It says, you know, you have to retract those statements. You have to sometimes, obviously in the case of Alex Jones, though I thought it was pretty disproportionate, pay the damages for those. But it doesn't mean you lose the rest of your right to free speech. And so the argument that Piers has made a million times, and I've said every single time, that he doesn't deserve any free speech because he did this one thing and lost a defamation case, not only is that not how the First Amendment works, but by the way, if you're going to apply that, then does that mean literally basically every single mainstream news outlet in the world that's been around long enough should lose the right to free speech and have to be forcibly dismantled? Because I guarantee if you look through the history of virtually any media outlet that's been around long enough, I guarantee at some point, virtually all of them have either lost a defamation case in court or have had to settle out of court, right? So does that apply to all of Piers's colleagues in the media, or is it just because Alex Jones is scary and different because he lost a defamation case that he should lose his entire First Amendment? It doesn't make any sense. It never made sense. I'm sure Steven's gonna call it out, though.
Now changed his mind, but my opinion was based on the Constitution of the United States not protecting you if you are guilty of defamation.
Again, he doesn't know how that works.
Well, okay, so I'm gonna have to take the rounds out of that magazine from how loaded that question was and so much misinformation there. And that's the beauty of the freedom of speech. You can say that, you can speak misinformation, and you have the right to, for example, saying he knowingly lied. Look, I'm not in the business of defending everything that Alex Jones has said, okay? But if you're going to say the 22 minutes out of 8,000 hours of broadcast time for which he apologized, acknowledged that he was wrong, constitutes what you are saying is proactively lying. That is a very dangerous precedent. It's not accurate.
Hang on, Stephen.
It's not accurate.
Stephen, he did deliberately lie for a sustained period of time, for years, about these families. He knew Sandy Hook.
Tell me how he deliberately lied.
He knew that.
Tell me how he
deliberately lied. And he was found to have deliberately lied.
Tell me how he deliberately lied.
And by the way,
where's the proof of that? Newsflash, there is none.
In his defense,
Tell me how he deliberately lied, please.
In his defense, he tried to play the First Amendment card, and it was rejected by the judge. Rejected.
Tell me how he deliberately lied, please.
Because he knew that it wasn't a hoax. He knew the massacre had happened.
Incorrect.
This isn't what he said.
That's incorrect.
Let's play what he said.
Hook, it's got inside job written all over it. Sandy Hook is a synthetic, completely fake, with actors, in my view, manufactured. I couldn't believe it at first. People just instinctively know that there's a lot of fraud going on. But it took me about a year with Sandy Hook to come to grips with the fact that the whole thing was fake.
Whole thing was fake. Repeatedly. That's a series of different shows he did.
You still haven't answered. You still haven't answered. That doesn't prove that he knowingly lied anything.
Right. And again, I don't agree with Alex Jones and what he said there, but that doesn't show he deliberately lied at all. It just says, oh, there's what he said. Where is Piers Morgan's proof that he ever, knew on the inside he was telling a blatant lie? It doesn't exist, and he didn't show it at all. So that's just another thing Piers Morgan's saying about this that's just blatantly untrue.
Alex Jones is wrong about a lie.
You're a very smart.
Alex Jones is wrong about a lie.
Stephen, you and I disagree.
But he's also
Stephen, you and I disagree. Hang on.
Believed it, and
I'm
then
going to respond to
wrong.
you. You and I disagree about many things. We agree about many too, right? But on this point, you're a very smart guy. I wouldn't question that for a moment. You and I both know Alex Jones knew that was not faked, Sandy Hook. You and I both know that.
So I have to spit the words out that you just tried to place in my mouth. I do not know that. I don't agree with the premise. And you have yet to prove it. Here's the beauty, though.
I don't have to prove it.
Even if you were
The
to
court
commit
proved it.
defamation, even if, no, it didn't. And even
It did.
assuming
It
that
found
you
him
don't
guilty
discuss
of
the caps
defamation.
with your audience, and I'm going to continue speaking as though we're having a dialogue, even assuming that you don't discuss the caps, that he would never pay out, the far lower settlement that they have decided they would allow, considering this will go to a superior court and will get thrown out, even if you allow all of those things. Here's the beauty of the First Amendment. Here's the beauty of the First Amendment. Even if you at one point commit defamation, you still don't forfeit your right to speak going forward.
You don't
lose
I
a
agree.
fundamental human right.
Exactly the point I've been making this entire time. Steven said it right there, and that's it. That ends Piers Morgan's argument about any of this. Just because you lose a defamation case or do something wrong doesn't mean you forfeit your free speech for the rest of history. And Piers says, "Oh, that's true." Well, then what? It doesn't make sense what Piers is even saying then. If Piers acknowledges that that's true and claims he believes in free speech, which he clearly does not, then the argument should be settled. But clearly it's not, so let's keep watching.
I agree.
And that's not why he was banned from. That's not why he was banned from Twitter.
I know
that.
He was banned from Twitter. He was banned from Twitter for having a pop at some guy from CNN. I don't care about that. I'm more interested in why Elon Musk tweeted when he...
You don't care about that. Well, your entire argument has been about that Alex Jones shouldn't be reinstated, so it is relevant the reason he was banned in the first place. That doesn't make any sense either.
Bought Twitter and was asked, will you bring back Alex Jones? He said, no, I won't allow somebody back on, having gone through the pain himself of a child dying in his own arms, one of his children. He wasn't going to allow someone who profited from the pain of dead children to be back on the platform. He then changed his mind, which he's allowed to do. He owns the platform. X is a private company owned by Elon Musk. He can do what he likes with it. But they also have a series of rules which are available on their website, which you can check about what is allowed and not allowed. And they will deplatform you if you transgress those rules. And my point to you is that the situation with Alex Jones is that he was found guilty in an American court of defamation. And yes, it's entirely down to Elon Musk that he can bring him back. But I agree with the first version of Elon Musk's decision-making, not the second one based on a completely undemocratic poll he put on his own Twitter feed.
Well, I agree with you that it shouldn't be left to a democratic poll because the First Amendment is not subject to a vote.
Right. But you accept the First Amendment of the US Constitution has a number of things which are excluded from protection, whether it's child pornography, fraud, defamation. There's a whole list of things which you'll simply...
But that has nothing to do with speech.
No, but you're
right.
conflating... But I think you've mischaracterized what I said then, because I've never said he hasn't got a right to say what he wants. He can say what he likes. I believe fundamentally in any...
But you have said he doesn't have a right to say what he wants. Because you have said he shouldn't be back on Twitter. So that means at least on that platform, you don't think he should have a right to say what he wants. Well, I don't even understand. It doesn't make any sense. Because that's the reason. It doesn't make any sense.
Anyone's right to say whatever they want. The question is accountability. And the US Constitution, which you don't think I know anything about, but actually I know a lot about. And I'm a huge...
I didn't say you don't know anything about it. I really don't believe that. I know that you have studied it.
In another clip from that same show you did, you basically said, I don't know much about the US Constitution because I'm not American. And that's fine. But I'd have lived and worked in America.
No, I'll say it. He doesn't know anything about the US Constitution. The Second Amendment, First Amendment, none of it.
20 years. I have tried to really get a handle on the US Constitution. And on the issue of the First Amendment, it is a complicated thing. It's not as simple as saying you can say whatever you want. Well, it is, because it doesn't allow the unfettered free speech, but with protection, you're suggesting it does.
It absolutely does.
It doesn't.
It absolutely does, barring, would you like me to explain, barring what I've already outlined? Actual criminal behavior calling for violence against other people. For example, Piers, look,
but
you know that
defamation.
You have been, and I'm saying this in your defense. For example, you made your joke about being a two-spirited penguin, right? I thought it was cute. I think it was funny, and I understand the point that you were trying to make. Okay, you have had people accuse you of creating violence against trans. You know that, and we know it's absurd. So who defines what is actually calling for violence, or if you basically in a roundabout way maybe causing violence? No, unless you called for violence.
No, but you keep saying that
you were a two-spirited penguin.
You keep saying that your only barrier on free speech is crime.
Yes.
And I keep reminding you that Alex Jones was found guilty of defamation, and that is one of the things that's not protected by the First Amendment.
Again, to repeat ourselves for the millionth time, even though he was found guilty of it, it doesn't mean he forfeits the rest of his right to say things that are free speech that have nothing to do with defamation. Like, how many times do we have to say the same thing? Steven said it, I said it, Piers even acknowledged it, but he just keeps, I don't even know. It doesn't even make any sense what he's trying to say, okay? And what this really boils down to is Piers has always had a vendetta against Alex because over a decade ago now, he brought him on the show and made him look really stupid, and many have said that's the reason he lost the CNN show. And now he's just trying to grasp at the weirdest straws that don't even make any sense to justify why he should not have a platform on Twitter. It doesn't actually make any sense. So...
No. It's not protected in a you can have civil damages, and your First Amendment rights don't cease to exist. In other words, you can pay. You can pay the piper for what you have done in that individual instance. So if someone at some point, if someone accuses you of defamation, and let's say has a suit levied against you that actually, by God, is successful, let's say that, does that forbid you from speaking publicly thereafter?
No,
you don't lose it. It's a fundamental human right.
Not at all. But it does allow, I'm exercising my rights to free speech to say I think he shouldn't be allowed back on X, which was the position of the owner of X until last week. So my point is that Elon Musk has made two judgment calls about this. One I agreed with and one I didn't. I'm exercising my free speech rights to say I don't agree with it.
You are. And I completely support your right to that. The problem is Elon Musk changed his mind in the face of new information.
Exactly.
And if we want to have productive dialogues, we need to, you know what? This is one thing I often ask. And by the way, I think that none of this is a gotcha for Twitter clicks. I hope to God it's not. How often when you were on CNN, or how often when you were on your morning show there in the UK, or how often do you see on any news network someone say, you know what, new information came out and I was wrong? And I say that because you've done it and I appreciate it. You said, you know what, if I knew what I know now about the COVID vaccine, specifically that if you get the COVID vaccine, you cannot transmit it. If I knew that that was incorrect, I wouldn't have espoused the views that I did. I think that's a beautiful thing. And I think the problem that we have in today's society is not wanting to allow people to be wrong, to make mistakes. In the realm of comedy, look, good jokes 100%. And bad jokes come from the same place. Sometimes you have to risk something and it's not funny.
I agree with you about all that. Sometimes you have to express
an opinion.
Yeah, but I agree with you about all that.
Sure.
I agree with that. I tell you, that's really the bedrock of this show. But I come back again to why I had a particular issue with the Alex Jones thing, is that unlike the other circumstances you're describing, in his case, he was found guilty of a serious defamation against the Sandy Hook families. He was fined over a...
Okay, see, Piers Morgan is a master of just finding one thing to say and saying it over and over again. Okay, and this is not the only example of it. But we've repeatedly addressed this now. Again, just because you lose a defamation case doesn't mean you lose your right to the rest of free speech. Piers even acknowledged, hey, people have been wrong about stuff. You can change your mind. I'm fine with that. So then what is the argument for keeping Alex Jones off of X/Twitter? Again, I boil back to all it is he basically he just doesn't like the guy. That's it. Because this whole argument he's trying to make about, I believe in free speech, but it not only is there no but, either you believe in free speech or you don't, but also it doesn't make sense. We've already refuted it. Steven said the same thing himself. Piers claimed to acknowledge it and then goes back to saying the same thing he keeps saying. It's honestly just frustrating to listen to. It's terrible content at this point. But let's play the last few minutes of this, okay? Jeez.
$1 billion. So far, he's not paid a dime of that money. And, Elon Musk has made two calls on it. Like I said, the first one I agreed with. I don't think that people like Alex Jones should be allowed an unchallenged, unfettered public platform to spew lies which are done deliberately, in my estimation, to spew lies.
Unchallenged? Are you out of your tree, sir?
Unchallenged.
It's a cesspool where anyone can say anything they
People
like.
can reply to him, but no one can have a direct challenge to Alex Jones.
What does that even mean? By definition, being able to reply, being able to retweet, being able to push back, that is a direct challenge to Alex Jones. Okay, and that's how free speech works. Like, what does that even mean? By definition of being on Twitter, Alex Jones is able to be challenged because people can reply to him or refute him or do whatever they want to do. I don't understand what that even means. And again, I've said this before, it's basically, it's wrong to platform, this is Piers Morgan's argument, it's wrong to platform Alex Jones unless I do it and monetize it and can just scream at him and talk over him the entire time. That's what it is. Because people are able to challenge him on Twitter. Like, I don't understand what this is even supposed to mean. But it's because I don't get to bring him on my show and do a terrible interview where I just interrupt him the whole time, then that's not okay. It doesn't make any sense. But by definition of being on Twitter, you can challenge him. Okay? Which you cannot necessarily do on Infowars.com where he does a show. I don't know if there's a live chat or not, so I'm not sure. But assuming if there is no live chat, then that's actually an unchallenged platform where he can just say whatever he wants. By definition, because Twitter has replies and retweets and comments, you are able to challenge Alex Jones. I don't understand what that even means.
Like I did when he came on my show.
I can.
Like you picked out, for example, that he came on my show, Jeremy Corbyn, Taliban spokesman, and so on. Yes, because in each of those cases, I put them through the mincer, right? And I'm prepared to have them on to give them a hard time and challenge them. You might agree or disagree with that, but they're all pretty volatile interviews. But I was able to challenge what I perceive to be their untruths, right? I'll show you a clip of the Corbyn one to show you what I mean. Have a look at this.
You seem to be
Hang on,
over-concerned with
anti-Semitism.
No, I did not.
I am. Should Hamas stay in power? It's actually
you done yet?
It's actually a critical question.
Are you done yet?
It's a critical question.
Are you done yet?
No, it's the question.
Are you done yet?
Should they stay in power?
Are you done yet?
This country says they're a terror group. Do you agree? And should they stay in power?
Listen, I do not approve, support, or welcome Hamas.
Are you?
You can do all these things on Twitter, so I don't get the point.
To call Hamas a terror group.
Is it possible to have a rational discussion with you? Is it possible? Come on, answer that question.
You can't, can you?
You answer it.
No, it's my show. You answer my question. Now, the point.
And by the way, like, I don't support Jeremy Corbyn or whoever that was, obviously, but it does kind of show how Piers does conduct a lot of these interviews where he kind of just yells at his guest and doesn't actually give him a platform to speak, which I guess is the case with Alex Jones as well. But just gonna point that out. You know, it's not a Jeremy Corbyn thing. Again, I don't like that guy, but he does this with all types of guests: left-wing guests, right-wing guests, pro-Israel, pro-Palestine. It's always the same situation. But according to Piers, that's the only thing you're allowed to do is do what he does, which is, you know, not allow people to speak. Uncensored, by the way.
Point of playing that clip, other than to entertain you, as I'm sure it did, is that, yes...
I hate that clip. I hate everything about that clip.
Why do you hate it?
I hate it because I don't like Jeremy Corbyn, but I think he's a bombastic prick, but I also think that you should have let him finish speaking. Why? Because then he would express bad ideas. Yeah, that's why I support freedom of speech.
But actually, in the end, I could tell very quickly he was never going to give an answer, and therefore we were in a game of cat and mouse, which went on so long that the viewer was left in no uncertain terms what his answer actually was. Because otherwise, you just say Hamas are a terror group. It's not difficult. And in fact, 2 days later, he admitted Hamas are a terror group. That was his position. But only after I shamed him into doing it. So look, here's my question for you.
So that's it. So you want to shame people into agreeing with you?
No,
I don't rather just let
not
them
at
speak
all.
if they have bad
not
ideas.
Not at all. I want to shame them into giving an honest opinion. What I will really lose my rag about, and I'm...
What? Well, by definition, Piers, if Alex Jones doesn't have a platform, then how can he give an honest opinion? It doesn't make sense. I repeat, it doesn't make sense.
Sure, you must be the same. When people just obfuscate and don't give a straight answer to a straight, simple question, then I will go after them. If they give an honest answer, even if I don't agree with it, I respect that. And in fact, I think people who watch my show regularly will see that is my position, whether I agree with them or not. I have lots of people on I don't really agree with. But I find the ones that I have respect for are the ones who give a straight answer to a straight question. So let me ask you a straight question. Let me ask you a straight question.
Sure.
David Duke, the former KKK leader, he's banned from Twitter. Elon Musk hasn't brought him back. Right. Should he be allowed to be back on X?
Throw that at me. Really? You just say...
Hot take to the answer to the question, though, is yes. Yes. David Duke has horrendous opinions. I don't agree with him, but unless he's directly calling for violence on the platform, that is the point of free speech, is yes. Even the worst people are allowed to have it and allowed to speak. So the answer is yes. It's an easy answer, actually. The answer is yes. And oh my gosh, you could take that out of context all you want, but that is how free speech works, yes. And by the way, that's my view on what Twitter and all these platforms should be. It's an idealistic vision, obviously, but I would wish that social media would be a place where basically everything within the realm of the First Amendment is protected. That's how I want it to be. I'm not saying it's how it's going to be, but that's, I think, the ideal vision.
Ask someone a straight question. You have me here. I'm basically a specter. I don't appear on any. You want to ask me about David Duke?
Yes. Because he's banned from Twitter.
Should David Duke be allowed back on X?
Yes.
I'm not as familiar with David Duke as I am with Alex, which is why I was able to point out that you cannot prove that he knowingly lied about anything.
No.
If David Duke has called for the violence, if David Duke has called for the violence, actions of violence against minority groups, then no. If David Duke has espoused horrible points of view that can be refuted, by the way, not only by other people who are on X, but by the community notes on X, and on a platform where people are free to speak on both sides of the aisle, then yes. It doesn't mean that I think he's anything other than a racist prick.
Right.
So I'm trying to work out whether
Can I make one point?
Yeah.
Can I make one point that I think is this is really, and hopefully we can agree on this, because I actually disagree with you that Elon Musk can do whatever he wants with his own platform. It comes down to this. I think, and if you look at the historical record, I think it is far more dangerous for society to engage in a culture of censorship, of viewpoint discrimination, than it is to allow people to speak freely, barring the committing of violent crimes.
100% agree. And by now you basically get the point. I know this video has gotten way longer than I anticipated it to, but Piers Morgan just doesn't understand free speech. His argument to keep Alex Jones off using the defamation case, as I have repeated a million times, doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. And this just sums him up right here, where I think Steven does a good job of taking apart the fact that what you're saying is incoherent, and you just keep saying it over and over again, and you think you're so intelligent for saying it, and he's not. So with that said, folks, let me know your thoughts on the entire situation down in the comment section below. Did you think Steven handled this interview well? I thought he did. And until next time, folks, leave a like and subscribe on the video. Check out our friends over at thevincedao.com. Alpha moves only. God bless. Have a very good day and peace.